Welcome to the Hateful Hitman Podcast. Brought to you by Hitman Fantasy Productions. Premier football coverage from college to NFL to fantasy and everything in between. And now, in the Hitman's Hideout, here's your host, Chris Strasbaugh.
Premier coverage for all things football, top to bottom, and I've been slacking a little bit. Got to be honest with you. Sometimes life gets in the way, trying to do that and work and everything, and sometimes it's just a cluster. But I'm back. Welcome into the Hateful Hitman Podcast on your Tuesday evening, January the 18th. I hope you all had a great New Year, Christmas, bowl games, fantasy playoffs. Now we're into the NFL playoffs. A lot's happened. I'll touch a little bit here on the national championship. I'm not going to give it 5 good minutes because it doesn't deserve it, because I hate the SEC, but it's hard to argue the fact that that's not the best conference in college football. And I know I've been the absolute voice of disdain for the SEC pretty much my entire life, and will continue to be, because I don't like the SEC. But I really don't know how it would have been a better game if it would have been anybody but Alabama and Georgia. Obviously, the two best teams in the country. That was determined by the semifinal games. The two most deserving teams in the country to play for the championship. Now, I was on record on social media and everything and said I was not going to watch the game, and for the most part I did not. I checked out a little bit just because it was the last college football game of the year. So let's be realistic. I did check it out. Did not watch the whole thing start to finish. Maybe watched half a quarter total. But I watched the review, the recap, and the highlights and stuff, and congratulations to Georgia. Glad to see them win it instead of Alabama. I don't think Alabama needed another national championship. Georgia hadn't won one since like 81, so they were due. And James Cook's little brother, or James Cook was there. It's Dalvin Cook's little brother. He declared for the NFL, so good for him. That's it. We're on to the off season now. We're on to transfer portal has taken over college football. The transfers, I can't even keep up with them all. There's people entering the transfer portal. There's people bailing out and going to other places, and it is so hard to keep track of. But I tell you what, there are podcasts out there who base their entire format on transfers, and I suggest that you do some deep research if you are into that kind of thing, and find one that doesn't. I can't keep up with it because some of the news doesn't even hit me until it's already. I see it on social media and it's already out there. So it's just hard to keep up with because the transfer portal has taken over college football. And although I'm never going to be a fan of the transfer portal itself, because I'm a traditionalist and I love traditional college football, and I believe that if you commit to a school that you should see that out. That being said, I can't say that I hate some of the transfers that are leaving schools and going elsewhere. And it can only help schools who are still young in recruiting, young, by team roster, getting experience, getting players that have been, playing time and all those kinds of things. It can only help. So I can't help but see the relevance of the transfer portal. And although that I know, as a dinosaur that I am, that the traditional college football is over and never to come back again, and I fully accept that, it's also known to me that times must and do change. And I got to say, Florida State has gotten a long list of transfers that can only help, the school that I love so dearly. So I can't hate it. They come and they go now. It's almost like free agency. And it's hard to keep up. But if you have a school that you follow religiously, if you're an Ohio State fan or you root for Notre Dame or Michigan or whatever, just find a blogger on Twitter or Facebook and follow a school. If you're a West Virginia Mountaineers fan, they have their own Facebook website. Same with Twitter. They have their own, and they post up there who's leaving, who's coming, and it's very, very informative, and they do a very good job of keeping you in the now. It is just impossible for me to keep track of all these schools on who's going where. Let's be realistic. I can't do it. It's impossible. Anybody who thinks that they can is really stressing themselves out and are going to lose a lot of sleep at night. But it does open up a new era to college football, and it opens up a new era for your school. And, Winston Wright recently entered the transfer portal from West Virginia, a school that I like and I enjoy. They're my second favorite team because Coach Bowden coached there before he went to Florida State, and he left and he went to Florida State. Huge transfer get for Norvell and the Seminoles at the wide receiver position, which they really needed some serious help. They got Micah Pittman from Oregon, who I'm pretty sure is Michael Pittman's little brother. He left and came to Florida State. They got a big receiver from Syracuse or Illinois, one of the two, coming in. Big, strong, physical, fast guy, which they really need because they didn't have any kind of size. So, the transfer portal is beneficial to teams who are young in their team rosters and need to put some experience and stuff on there. If you leave a school to go to Alabama, which when I saw that Jamar Gibbs has left Georgia Tech to go to Alabama, to me that's chasing a ring. That's what he's doing. He's chasing a ring, and he's chasing a chance to be a higher draft pick in the NFL. I really believe if he would have stuck it out at Georgia Tech, his talent would have spoken for itself and did what it needed to do, and he would have been fine. Because he was really a really high name in the Devy community and in college fantasy, over the summer and even into our drafts and throughout the season. Now I think he's going to have trouble getting on the field just because of the depth of what they have at Alabama. I still have Trey Sanders, who's coming along. Now they are going to lose Brian Robinson. But, you got to know that Nick Saban has more than just two running backs in the cupboard. So whatever enticed him to do that, I hope he's as good as he thinks he is, or else he may have just really screwed his shot at even playing time. Because this is Alabama we're talking about. It's not like he left Georgia Tech to go to Virginia Tech. So we'll see. Some of them are crazy. Caleb Williams entering the transfer portal. Spencer Rattler entering the portal. Now Oklahoma went from having a wealth at the quarterback position to not having a whole lot. Could have been because of the coaching situation there in Oklahoma. A lot to be determined and a lot to slice through during this offseason. And it does suck that the college football's over, and it does suck that we have to wait all that time again. And pretty soon we'll be in June and July, and it's going to be such a drag because July is absolutely the worst month because you're so close to getting there, but we're still a long way away from that, and it's such a drag. But there's a lot to unravel between then and now. Devy drafts will be kicking off here before too much longer. I'm going to wait on our Devy draft. I might even back it up. Normally, I think we have it in about February or March. I might back it up to April, and it's all due to the transfer portal. I want to give some of these players a chance to shake out, because normally you have spring games that kick off, and those usually happen around April or May, if my memory serves me right. And by then, I think all the transferring is going to be, shaken out for 1 year. But, you don't want to draft a kid, say Jamar Gibbs, who I actually have in the Devy League and in my college fantasy team. And now I'm not sure, what his status is going to be for next year. So I'm probably going to push our Devy draft back a little bit just to see if some more guys, opt out. Travis Dye from Oregon enters the transfer portal. I'd love to see him, end up in Florida State with Pittman. That would be fantastic. But, there's a lot of big names that have left, and you need to keep track of that. Find a team you like, or find a player, find them on social media, and they'll let you know, because they're not shy about telling you, hey, I'm committing to the University of, John Henry Jones. I'm not going to make this whole thing about the Dallas Cowboys and the NFL and the NFL playoffs, but it is going to be a lengthy discussion on that team in Texas. I want to start, though, with the team that's a lot closer to me, and that'd be the Cincinnati Bengals. And since the Cowboys are no longer playing football until next fall, I am going to jump on the Bengals wagon and root for them as far as Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase and T. Higgins takes them. And Zach Taylor and the coaching staff for that team have done a fantastic job, and I got to tell you, as long as Joe Burrow is on the field, okay, and he's not hurt or whatever, that Bengals team is dangerous, and they have a chance to win. And I'm not saying that they can beat Kansas City, but they've already beaten Kansas City. So that would be a fantastic matchup to see again. The Buffalo Bills have maybe woken up at the exact right time, and Josh Allen played his tail off the other night. Just a huge game from him, and I kind of saw that coming. The first game against New England was 50-some-mile-an-hour winds, and that one was a mulligan to me. And then the second one, just a couple weeks later, Allen lit him up, and that's the real Buffalo Bills. Will the real Buffalo Bills please stand up? Well, that was it. I had a feeling that they were really going to embarrass New England, and it happened. And it's good to see them, get knocked off and get out of there. We've had enough of them, running the not only the AFC East, but the AFC and the NFL for years. It's time to see somebody new step up. And I couldn't be happier that Buffalo could be one of those teams. To see Buffalo or Cincinnati make it all the way and go to the Super Bowl would be just fine with me. Buffalo hasn't been there, since the Cowboys were there back in the 90s, and it would be nice to see them put it together and be able to pull it off. And if you look at the AFC teams now, we've still got a wild card scenario with Derrick Henry there in Tennessee, but he makes that team different. And we don't know what he's going to look like. I was just talking with a buddy of mine, John Strasser, on a text message earlier today, and we were discussing some strategies that we're doing in our playoff fantasy league during the playoffs, and we were talking about drafting positions and where we thought Henry might go, and we both have a little bit of a pause because we're not sure what that's going to be. But if he's healthy and ready to go, that Tennessee team is very, very dangerous. They got a good, not great quarterback. They got a superstar in the making at wide receiver. And, their defense is solid. And, Derrick Henry adds a dimension that if you're playing him in the cold and it's cold outside and you're trying to tackle him, it's just going to make it that much harder if he's ready to go. Now, if they held him out another week, that bye week probably did a load of good. If he was ready to go in the last week of the season and they held him out that week and then another week because of the bye and just another week to get healthier, then Derrick Henry could be a force, which makes Tennessee a force. I mean, for goodness sakes, they're the 1 seed in the AFC, so it's not like they're there by accident. Okay, it was really tough, but all these AFC teams, Kansas City, Cincinnati, Buffalo, and Tennessee, honestly, I can really see any one of those 4 teams making it and representing the AFC in the Super Bowl. They all got things that I like, and they all got things that I don't like. Cincinnati took a couple of big hits injury-wise, defensively. They lost Trey Hendrickson. Larry Ogunjobi's out for the year, so they took a couple of nicks there defensively that's going to hurt them. But like I said a minute ago, man, as long as they got Burrow and it's a close game, the Bengals have a chance. And I don't see any of these teams just destroying Cincinnati. I mean, Buffalo to me is scary because of what Allen can do, and Allen showed us what he could do when he was running the ball last weekend. And he's very dangerous there. He's big frame, and he runs good for a big guy, and he throws way better than they ever thought that he would coming out of Wyoming. And I think he's legit, and he's a good quarterback. I mean, out of those 4 teams in the AFC, to me, the weak link is Tannehill. And that's saying something because this is only Joe Burrow's second year in the NFL, and Tannehill's been doing this for a long time. The Chiefs and Mahomes, to me, can be beat because they have been beat. They were not going to get beat by Pittsburgh the other night. Pittsburgh just didn't have any bullets in the gun. They had one, and it was because of a defensive scoop and score, and that was their only shot. They were going to need the defense to score 6 defensive touchdowns to make that game close. Because once Mahomes and that ball got rolling, there was no stopping it. And it was only a matter of time. Yes, it was cool to see the chance of what might happen. Could they really pull this off? Steelers were all, I think even Steeler fans knew. Okay, you might get the occasional Steeler fan that's like, no, I thought we had a chance because, they were going to play for Big Ben. And they did play for Big Ben. Okay, they played for Big Ben the last couple of games. But when you're outmatched and just, outclassed, I wouldn't say outclassed, but out-talented, eventually that's going to show through. It might take 2 or 3 quarters, but it's going to show through. I believe that KC is dangerous to a point. If you can get to Mahomes, and it's a big if, and fluster him into making some kinds of mistakes, but they're calling him now that he's really becoming good at checking down and not taking the deep shot, which he has, because defenses, let's face it, they've taken that away. Over the course of the season, we saw that early on, and that's where the Chiefs struggled. But then they was able to adjust, and now he'll check it down to somebody and still pick up 12 yards. So I mean, they've adjusted to that, and they're still a legitimate threat. I mean, they've been there. They've been to the Super Bowl. If they go again, what, it'd be 3 straight? If I remember right, 3 straight years if they go again. So there's another reason why I'd like to see somebody else. They won one. They've had a shot. They've been there. So, out of this AFC, my heart, with, being from Ohio, I'm rooting for the Bengals, and I would really love to see them, continue this run and make a push to the AFC Championship and make a run to the Super Bowl. I think they've got the team to do it because they've got momentum on their side and they've got confidence. And if they could catch somebody sleeping, The Bengals are for real. They're not a joke. I said this before. The Bengals aren't a joke anymore. For years around here, it's been like, if you go to the Bengals, your career's doomed. And I've talked about Peter Warrick before. Peter Warrick was the most dynamic wide receiver college football ever had, and he went there, and I don't know what happened. He wasn't ever the fastest guy, but it's not like he just forgot how to play. He was having a fantastic season until he got hurt. They say if you go to the Bengals, you're jinxed. Well, now, look at it. We got Burrow there in Cincinnati, and you got Higgins, and Jamar Chase, who is fantastic, and you got Tyler Boyd, who's really good. C.J. Uzomah at the tight end position. And I'm not a Joe Mixon fan, but at least he's a solid running back. I don't like him as a person, but they've got a running game there. And their defense did take some defensive hits over the last weekend, but, their defense is decent. They're not great, but, you really got to pull for Cincinnati a little bit, even being from Ohio even more. The NFC picture, to me, is a little bit different. I look at the 4 teams in the NFC as 1, 2, and then I think there's a drop-off. There's a space, and then 3 and 4. And what the Rams did last night to the Cardinals, to me, was really not a surprise. Cardinals started off like a house of fire, and then they backed off. And Kyler was kind of dinged up, and he never really came back. He never really looked like he was either 100% healthy or 100% comfortable, playing. And he struggled there the last month or whatever of the season. And this happened last year, people. Okay, I had him. I've had Kyler Murray in several fantasy leagues, and he gets you to the playoffs, but he can't get you through the playoffs. And I posted a meme on my Facebook page, the Hitman Facebook page last night of Forrest Gump when he realizes his mama was sick and he jumps off the boat. I posted that meme. I'm like, me currently live look-in of me jumping off the Kyler boat. I was Forrest Gump jumping into the water there, and I traded him in the Devy League through the off season last year, and it worked out. I won my second consecutive Devy League title with Burrow as my other quarterback there instead of having Kyler. I had Burrow and Dak, and I was able to pull off a second straight championship, and I was happy to get rid of Kyler. In the Hateful Hitman League, it's a one-quarterback league. I had Kyler since he was a rookie, and I'm moving on. It's not. It's great to get you to the fantasy playoffs, but if he can't get you past the fantasy playoffs, then to me, as a fantasy asset, it's just not very good. So I made a trade, and I got Joe Burrow, and I'm moving on from Kyler Murray. I'll use him maybe in situations, but he's not going to be my week in and week out starter. I've seen enough to know that I've seen enough. And last night, man, he looked like a scared guy who had just come out of a Division II college, and he was playing the Los Angeles Rams, and he did not know what to do. And this is the team that beat the Los Angeles Rams in their home stadium, if I'm not mistaken. And, he looked scared. The play where he was in the end zone and about to get safety and just tossed the ball up, and the guy picked it off and ran it back in for 2 yards for the touchdown. Take the safety, dude. Throw the football out of the back of the end zone if you have to. Don't do that. That looked like a rookie. That looked like a guy who did not know what was going on, and he was not prepared for that game whatsoever. And in my opinion, Kyler Murray has looked like that the past few games for the Cardinals. Their record that they built the first half of the season got him into the playoffs, much like the Dallas Cowboys, which I'll get to here in just a minute. So to me, it's Green Bay and the Rams, and then there's a tier break. Okay, then you got a spot, and then you can make an argument for Tampa or San Fran. Okay, San Fran's got a gadget player by the name of Deebo Samuel who is a nuisance, really, for defenses because he can catch the ball, run the ball, and he's fast, and he's a physical guy. I was watching an interview where he likes to take on the contact, and you don't normally see that out of wide receivers and stuff. But I have genuine concerns at the quarterback position for that team. Jimmy Garoppolo could have easily lost that game against Dallas as he did win it. And I'll get to the reasons for that when I bash on the Cowboys here in just a minute. But, if the Cowboys would have won that game, you would have been saying, okay, well, Jimmy G needs to go. We've seen enough of this crap, because the interception he threw there that really put Dallas back in the game was crazy. I mean, it wasn't as bad as that Kyler Murray one last night, but it was at least on the same page, because it's like, I don't know where he threw it. It's like he threw it right to Anthony Brown, which was great, but I mean, that could have lost him the game if the coaching for the Cowboys wasn't retarded. So, I mean, I have concerns about Jimmy Garoppolo, and I don't know the status of Nick Bosa. And it looked like Fred Warner could have probably came back in. He was wanting to come back in. But if they don't have Nick Bosa because of a concussion or something, that team's different. That team's different defensively, and you can do things. And you've seen that in the Dallas game when Bosa and Warner both went out. There was a little bit more time for Dak to throw, and there were some things they were able to do. But, I mean, that defensive line swarmed Dallas all game. And if you look at the losses that Dallas took this year, when the defenses got after Dak Prescott, Dallas did not do very well. So, I mean, as far as quarterbacks go, it's obviously Tom Brady over Jimmy Garoppolo. Okay, but, I mean, you got Aaron Rodgers in this week. You got Matthew Stafford, Jimmy Garoppolo, and Tom Brady, for the NFC. And, obviously Brady's Hall of Famer, first ballot. He's Tom Brady, for crying out loud. But he lacks some weapons, I think, that may end up costing him in the long run. With Godwin being out, that one really hurts. Antonio Brown being a head case, that takes away a talented weapon for him. Gronk and Evans, I mean, Evans had a really good game the other night, but to me, that game was really one-sided. They were going to win that game. Really, they could have run the ball and won that game probably, even being down to their third running back. I think Tom Brady lacks some firepower to make it all the way. I'm not taking anything away from Brady, but he needs pieces around him. Gronk and Evans just aren't going to be it. The other wide receivers there, he gets mad at when they don't run the right routes and stuff. So they're not on the same page because they're not used to playing together. I think ultimately that hurts Tampa, which puts them in that lower tier. Who would I have 3? Who would I have 4? I really don't know. It's flip a coin. I think if you like Tampa and you like their defense, and their defense gives you a chance, and it really does, with those linebackers and those safeties and defensive guys that fly around the ball, I mean, they're going to be in it, and it's Brady. Brady's going to keep you in it. Brady's going to keep you relevant in that game, even if you are outclassed. I just think in the long run, there are other teams. I think Green Bay can beat them, especially if Tampa has to go up to Green Bay for the AFC or the NFC Championship. It's going to be cold up there, and I just think that works in Green Bay's favor. For one, it's Lambeau and everything. Same with the Rams. If the Rams have to come to Green Bay, I think that all plays in Green Bay's favor, and I think the road, literally, they always say, the road to the Super Bowl through the NFC rolls through Green Bay. Well, it's the case, because if you look at it, you got the Rams and San Francisco from California, and you got Tampa from Florida. Okay, all those are warm weather climates, and all used to playing in the warmth, going up to Green Bay, and it could be 2 degrees without the wind chill. So, I mean, it's going to be hard for me to say anybody on this NFC side of the ball is going to be able to beat Green Bay if they're in the zone. I think you're probably looking at Green Bay making it and being the representative from the NFC, and although I wouldn't mind seeing the Rams and the Bengals, just because the Rams have a couple of Knowles on both sides of the ball. Cam Akers is coming back. He had a really good game there last night. 55 yards, had one good catch. Could have had 2 really nice catches. And seeing him come back from that Achilles injury is amazing, the way that he looked. I mean, he looked so crisp, so fresh, and 5 times faster than Sonny Michel ever thought about being. And it's fresh legs, and plus he's just a better player. But he gives the Rams something, in the running game that they can really need, and Stafford can lean on. and really make him a better quarterback. And then OBJ's playing great. Cooper Kupp's obviously, amazing. So those two teams to me are the top two in the NFC, and then the other two there's a tier break between San Francisco and Tampa Bay for me. I guess I'd take Tampa Bay third just because they have Brady. It's really going to be interesting to see, who can, if somebody can beat Green Bay in Green Bay, because that's going to be a whole nother element in the matchups. Last bit, I'm going to rant on the Dallas Cowboys, and first of all, I got to say I'm a Dallas Cowboy fan. I have been ever since I was old enough to know what football was. My dad and my grandma, groomed me as a Dallas Cowboy fan, and they'll always be my team. That being said, I also have certain rights, since I've been a Cowboy fan my whole entire life, that it also gives me a right to just basically bottom line it and call it what it is, and that was crap that they put on the field Sunday at home against a team that they probably should have beaten. I don't know. I mean, I'm not taking anything away from San Fran because, like I said, Deebo Samuel is a game changer, and he is a nuisance, and he's hard to defend. But you're telling me it's just not one player. One player does not define your football team. Okay? You can't line up a Deebo Samuel and say, okay, well, one guy beat us. No. The penalties, the pre-snap penalties for the Dallas Cowboys, and piss-poor coaching, again, by the Cowboys head coaching staff, head coach, I'm just going to put it right there, cost them a chance at this game. The penalties, to me, are embarrassing, and it's been that way the entire season. They were able to get some wins, against teams that they should have beaten. Plain and simple, I put this on social media. It's been this way for 20 years. The Cowboys can't win games against good teams. Yeah, it's fine to beat Washington by 50 and to blow out the Eagles and beat the Giants and win your division. That's easy because those teams are horrible. Horrible. Okay, the Eagles had no business being in the playoffs. And they didn't even show up. Like I said, Tampa was really, that was a cakewalk for Tampa the other day, honestly. But NFC East title's great, okay, but that's just step one. With a team like that, you've got a window that's closing. It's been closing because that offensive line is aging. Tyron Smith is not a young kid anymore, okay? He's older and he's hurt a lot, and he's on the back nine of his NFL career. Sad to say because he was one of the greats, truly a Cowboy great at the tackle position. But he's getting older, okay, and their window's closing. Zeke Elliott is a shell of the running back that he used to be, and to me, I laugh at that because I didn't want him to draft Zeke Elliott in the first place, not just because he's from Ohio State, but he's a running back, and you just don't take running backs that high in the NFL draft because their shelf life is less. Zeke's shelf life now is less than the average running back that came in, at the same time as him. He doesn't look the same. He doesn't look as he still looks strong, and he's still going to get you 2 or 3 yards. But his days of breaking 40 and 50-yard touchdown runs, I think, are over. It just doesn't happen anymore. And they put Tony Pollard in, and he's got juice, and he's younger, and he's just faster, and he's quicker, and he's not as big and he's not as physical as Zeke. So they do make a really good 1-2 punch. But you're paying Zeke way too much money for what he's doing for your football team. They couldn't get the run game going, which we knew that. Going into that San Francisco game, we knew that front four for San Francisco was better than the Dallas front offensive line. Okay? Even though that Dallas offensive line has been legendary for 10 years, like I said, they're getting old, and they're starting to get outplayed. And when you got younger talent coming in against you, you're going to get winded sooner, you're going to get wore out, and you're going to be tired, and that's exactly what happened. That defense wore down that Dallas offense, and you factor in some penalties, which were horrible again. And the Cowboys lost a game that they probably should have won. Plain and simple. I'm not bashing on Dak Prescott, even though I'm a Romo guy. I'm not going to make this about, Dak Prescott being terrible at the quarterback position. To me, he's not great. He was throwing behind receivers. He had a wide open Cedric Wilson for a first down and threw it behind him, and the ball got tipped and almost intercepted. It was so far behind him. Just terrible. Some of his throws are horrid. Some of the throws that an NFL quarterback who is supposed to be, a NFL stud should not be making. Just bad throws, bad decisions, and it happens at the worst possible time. He always picks the worst possible time to do something that is completely ignorant. I'm going to jump ahead to the last play of the game because to me this was not Dak's fault. This was a call. Okay, this was a call by the sidelines for that design quarterback run. Because after they got the play there, okay, and Dak took off, and he got that scramble, and he was trying to get down, and there was the flub up with the referee, and the referee has to touch the ball. I've never played a down of football in my life, and I know that. So you got professionals who've been playing it their entire life since they were 6 that know that ball has to be touched by the official. He has to reset. I don't care if he picks it up and moves it one blade of grass. He has to respot the ball. That is a given. But when he got up from that scramble, that was a design play call from the sidelines because everybody on the offense knew what to do. Okay? They knew that when Dak got down, they had to get up there and spike the ball. And then they were going to have a 25-yard play to the end zone as opposed to a 45-yard play. I see the process in it. I see what you're trying to do there. You just didn't have enough time, McCarthy. That play call was not the right call at that time. The clock was against you. You had no timeouts. And that play didn't get you out of bounds. There was 3 things right there that were not working at all. And when he took off up the middle, I'm like, he's going to have to score. And then I seen him slide. And you seen all the offense come up. They knew what to do. That was a design play call from the sideline, and it was terrible. Now, I don't know that Kellen Moore called that play. I don't know if that was McCarthy's idea. But McCarthy is the one who should be blamed for it. He's the head coach. That's heavy as the head that wears the crown. And I'm sitting here yesterday morning, and there's talks on some things I'm listening to that maybe McCarthy should be fired over it. That there are people out there, and I'm not saying that I'm not one of them, that think that is a fireable decision by a head coach in that bubble of time. Now, if you go back and listen to when they hired him, I wasn't a fan, haven't been a fan, won't be a fan, don't like the guy. I don't think he's a very good head coach. He makes stupid mistakes. And he said on an interview that was the right play call. How in the world can that be the right play call when you are gambling that everything is going to go your way in that moment between the time Dak gets down and the offensive line gets set and you're able to respike that or to reset the ball, hike it, and spike it? How in the world is that the right call and everything has to work exactly? And you are also leading the NFL in pre-snap penalties. How in the hell is that the right call, sir? It is not the right call. You're trying to save your own butt is what you're trying to do. And in my opinion, and they're not going to call and ask me. They're not going to pick up the phone and say, hey, there may be a guy here in Ohio that's on to something. Let's call him and see what he has to say. They're not going to call me and ask me if, I think they should move on from Mike McCarthy. But And me sitting here as a podcaster with a laptop and a very strong opinion, I would love to see him give Dan Quinn the job and send McCarthy on down the road. See ya, bye. That would be okay with me. Are they going to do it? Doesn't look like it. Stephen Jones says he's pretty confident that he will be back next year, and that saddens me. I don't think he's a very good coach. I never have. And, there's a reason why he's not in Green Bay anymore. Green Bay, a city who is rich in NFL tradition and rich in Lombardi trophies, and actually, the trophy's named after the guy from Green Bay. So, there's a reason why he's not there anymore. Doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure that out. That's it. I'm going to get out of here on that note. If you are a fan of the Rams, Buccaneers, Niners, Packers, Chiefs, Bengals, Bills, or Titans, your season continues. If not, you're like me, and you're just hoping that Kansas City doesn't make it again. Have a good week. Enjoy the playoffs. Enjoy the offseason. I'll be back. See you next time on The Hitman Show.